Hey everyone, this is Mike Properti, and you're listening to Context, the podcast where I'm talking to industry leaders about the technology and businesses changing and not changing in real estate. This is the On the Road edition, so I'm here in lovely Zurich, Switzerland with Levent, CEO and co-founder of Properti. Hey.
Hey, Mike, thanks. Nice to meet you. Thank you for being here.
Yeah, no, my pleasure. And Levent, you and I were just having coffee, and kind of halfway through our conversation, I was like, oh my God, we gotta record this. This is really interesting, kind of talking about the differences between the Swiss market, the European markets, the US market, the world of startups in real estate tech, what's working, what's not working. So here we are. To begin with, tell me what Property does
Yeah, of
in
course.
a nutshell.
Yeah, of course. So Property is like leading or tech agent. So we are just a brokerage, a tech-enabled brokerage, which really empowers agents on one side to do more transactions, on the other side, of course, having more transparency in the Swiss real estate market.
Okay, that's great. Is there a US company that you kind of model yourself after or think about in terms of, oh, we're just like this company?
Oh, I think not yet, but we are very inspired by the U.S. market because I believe that U.S. market is doing quite a great job. But I wouldn't say at the moment yet. But yeah, let's see. Like I'm really trying to understand better U.S. market and let's see which companies fits the best. Right?
Okay. And just to kind of frame this, you were telling me, depending on the metric, you're maybe third or fourth largest brokerage,
Yeah.
you think, in the country in terms of active listings?
Exactly. Yeah. If we compare like active listings, we are more or less third, fourth biggest agent in Switzerland. But I think there is also like the metric is quite hard to say because like we don't know how much transaction at the end of the day. But yeah, like I would say third, fourth biggest in Switzerland at the moment.
So that's interesting. You don't know how many transactions. So what data do you have in the real estate market?
Yeah, that's actually a bit the Swiss market. You know, they're not like open data as we have it in the US market. So and we can compare like the active listings, but how much transactions an agents really does, we don't know, right?
Hmm.
So we can really compare the different agencies and how much listings they have on different real estate portals. But on the other side, of course, there's also the aspect of off-market listings, which, yeah, that's really the hard data situation in Switzerland, right?
Do you wish you had more access to more data?
I love data, so I think yeah, data is for us a very important one. So of course it would be nice, right? But I think it's a bit hard because also in Switzerland the different like yeah, markets, let's say, they are not really open, and there are some cantons we say they are like they have open data, so you know who the property owner is, and some other cantons they are not open, right? And that's a bit the challenge.
Interesting. And you asked me a question. You said, what's the average number of homes an American will typically buy in their lifetime? You know, and I said three to five, just kind of a rough guess. What that number in Switzerland is
Yeah, the number in Switzerland is really about 0.8 per
0.8.
lifetime, right? So, and I think that's also a bit the challenge. We have also two different numbers of amount of transactions. So there are numbers around that we say sale transactions in Switzerland, there are over 45,000. Then there are other numbers which say 60,000. So yeah, it's a bit an interesting market, let's say, and that's why there's a certain difference, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So what's the real estate tech startup scene like here in Switzerland and Europe?
Yeah, I think like you know, on one side, Switzerland is quite a small country, right? And I think there is still a huge potential to disrupt the market. We like especially the brokerage business is really old-fashioned, traditional, so there's a huge potential to disrupt the market. But what I observed the past months and years is a bit there are much great ideas, but at the end of the day, if you can't pay the bills, let's say as a company, the idea brings no value, right? And I think overall there is a change in prop tech and tech startups, and I see also use cases which really work, and also with AI at the moment, like the world changed quite fast, and I think there's a huge potential overall. Right?
Hmm. Have there been any companies or disruptors in this space that have really changed the market?
Yeah, I would say like especially in real estate brokerage. If you look to Germany, right, I think there was McMuckler, which had a crazy growth in the first couple of years, right? And I saw also like big investors from the US, but also from Europe invested there. But they started to struggle, especially after Corona time when the economy struggled, right, and the interest rates went up. And I think that was something which we as property also saw on the market, that much investors, private equity investors also, they invested in McMuckler and they saw, hey, it's not really working, right, because they burned too much money. And I think that's also a bit the challenge, right, of growth, of like building up a company, but always being aware of the aspect, hey, if you want to grow, you have to have, in a certain way, sustainable growth, right? And this, let's say, economic crisis now in the European or German or like I think worldwide market related also to real estate showed a bit that if you're not growing sustainable, it's quite hard, right? And that's something which we also started to recognize, that the investors said, yeah, but look at macro, the case is not working, they're burning too much money, they had a super growth, but they couldn't show the way to profitability, right? And I think now this year they already did the third round of layoffs. Last year they already did 2 or 3 times, I'm not 100% sure. But that's a challenge, right? Even also for the startups, right?
How are you leading your company to sustainable growth?
Yeah, I think for us, like historical wise, we bootstrapped the first 2 years, right? And for me it was always important. I think growth is nice, right? But then we also had to learn that you need certain focus, right? And I think it's always really looking at your numbers, looking at growth, looking, okay, where you invest the money, right? And I think that's very important, right? I think, of course, like the companies want to grow and everything, but at the end of the day, it's important to really having a certain risk awareness and understand, hey, how is the market turning, and based on that reacting, right?
Yeah. Are there any particular decisions you've made over the past 12 months with that idea of sustainable growth in mind?
I think one of the most important things is focus. I think you talked to us in the last blog about it, and it's really about where we want to be the best and how we want to be the best. I think really focusing on your main business is very important, and that's something which we also learned the past 12 months. So our main focus, is residential real estate, right? Selling and also renting properties. But I think it's really focused, right? And we had also to learn with property that, yeah, in the beginning there was the idea of this ecosystem, like 360-degree, and now we said, hey, now let's focus on residential, and that's they're very good at, and we want to be the best at, and I think that's also our road to 5% market share.
Okay, so that's your road to 5% market share, which is your goal.
Exactly.
So can you give an example of where you put that focus into action, where you went from, ecosystem 360 degrees to just brokerage?
Yeah, like in the beginning, as I mentioned, we bootstrapped, and after that, we were also in the property management for more or less 12 months. We thought of our like entering the property management process in a certain way that we could really like having a better like this 360-degree view for private property owners, but we start to realize that it's a completely different business, right? And then we quit the business, we quit the business quite fast. And then that was one big thing where we realized, hey, let's focus on residential. And the second one is this whole thing about like moving, cleaning, mortgages, insurances, which we still do, but it's a fully automatized process where we don't really invest more additional resources, tech resources on it. Like it's fully automatized with our partners, and that's it, right?
So that's interesting, because that's kind of the opposite of what so many big brokerages in the US, and I'm sure many other markets are doing, where they're kind of expanding and trying to do more and more and doing this big ecosystem.
Yeah, I think that's something also we had to learn. I personally believe that like our main target in the beginning was really the aspect of like efficiency-wise. So we said, hey, let's do this cross-selling stuff in a certain way, efficiency-wise, so fast transactions. But then we started to realize that there are different challenges. Let's say the partner didn't answer it, like we hand over them a lead, and it was like it started to give us more work, right? And that's why we said, hey, let's focus on transactions. We want to be number one there, and that's where we want to go, right?
So that focus, has that changed the trajectory of your business?
Yes, 100%. Like I believe we're going faster now. I think people are more focused. People know where we head to, right? And I think it's a clear path to this 5% market share in Switzerland, which we target, right? And I think it was for the whole organization a certain relief, because they know, okay, we know where we go to and how we go to, and I think that's one of the most important things.
Yeah. Do you spend much time looking at other markets, the US or anything else?
I think now, like after 5 years, I'm in the position to really spend more on strategy. I think there's always the challenge in the beginning, and you build up a startup that, yeah, you're quite operational, you're hands-on, right? And now, in a couple of months, I could really focus on different markets to understand them better, but even also try to pick like the best things and adapt it to the Swiss market, right? So I really believe if a company wants to start up, scale up, wants to grow, it's really important that there is this permanently improvement, right? But it's always important to know as a scale up where you want to be and where you want to go to, right? But permanently try to improve how you work, and I think that's for me personally like really helping me with the strategy, with improving our business, and also have a certain growth, right?
Right. Can you give a couple examples of what's inspired you, whether specific companies or trends or themes?
Yeah, I think especially if you look to the US market, I'm really inspired by the brokerage, like the different brokers, especially like if you look to Keller Williams, Compass, EXP. Like what inspires me is really that in the US market, there's really the personal brand which they're pushing, right? And if you compare to Switzerland, it's always about the company, like the brokers themselves, and that's something which I really want to do better, like putting our people in front of the business and not property, right? And other things are like retention, like if you look to the EXP model as example, is quite interesting. So also finding a good way between how we want to hire our agents. Are they hired? Are they partners? Are they franchisees? And I think trying to find the best way, right?
What are your agents? Are they hired? Are they franchisees?
At the moment, they're hired,
Okay.
right? And that's something also, like we also allow second job starters, but that was in the beginning of our strategy. And now we start to move to really also expand agents. And there we try to find out ways how we want to work with them together. Are they hired? Are they partners? And that's actually what I'm doing at the moment.
Are most agents in Switzerland hired, or is that unique?
If you look to the top players, as example, Remax or Volkers, like they're franchise companies, right? On the other side, they're more the traditional agents, they're hired, right? There's these two boss sides, let's say. There are also like this cash fixed commission agents, like Neho as example, which they also are hired, but they have a lower commission share. But yeah, it's like they're hired or franchisees, like these two things.
Okay. So you said you look at the US model for inspiration and you see that personal branding coming forward as opposed to the company. What are some ways you're putting that personal branding forward in your company?
I think at the moment, like we have a project, it's called Local Hero, right? I think we also talked before about the aspect of that the different real estate markets, like the markets are really different, like real local, it's a really local business. And there's one big project which started actually a couple of months ago called Local Hero. So it's really about positioning our agents in the different regions, making out of them tough leaders. So it's about really expertise in the region, giving content to the different, like the private buyers and sellers. And that's a huge project. It's a bit similar what actually Zillow does with their Zillow Premier agents, like positioning them. And that's actually where we had to, like really putting the personal brand in front of our company and pushing them, right?
Yeah. So on the theme of you learning and getting inspired, so you recently joined the Real Estate Innovation Hub, which is my thing in Colorado. So later this year, you're going to fly out to Colorado and spend a couple days with me and some other people. I mean, that's a big investment of time and money. Why did you decide to do that?
I think it's very important really to permanently improve yourself. And I think for me, it's very important, like we want to have like the best agents on the market. We also invest quite heavy into the whole training, learning, development part. So really in believing in investing into people. And it's my job as a CEO to innovate. And that's why like I'm really happy to be part of the hub and also coming to Colorado, because it's for me new inspiration and it's something which actually also the company needs, I believe.
Right. No, that's good. And you said you've already had some chats with some existing hub members, and that's been, and even though they're in the US market, all they know is the US market, that's been helpful to you?
Very helpful. Like I also believe, it's not about that we say, hey, we have the US market and we take it and implement it in Switzerland. So it's really about understanding better how the market works and then try to really take the best things out of it and start to implement. So very great conversation so far and very useful. And I really like the US vibe, to be honest, like this really certain straightforward, direct way of work. And so I love it.
Yeah. Shifting gears, technology. Is there any technology you're using that's really moving the needle?
I think I personally believe in efficiency gain, right? So for us, it's about enabling people, it's about enabling our agents to be more efficient the whole process. And that's, in my opinion, also the future, right? So also if I think on AI, like it's really about how we can empower the agents, how we can empower our headquarters to help our agents better. But I really believe in more or less fully automatized transactions. So at the moment when we sell properties, we can fully automatize everything up to the notary appointment. That's still not possible in Switzerland. At the renting business, we have fully automatized everything, and I think it's an efficiency thing. So it's about efficiency, that agents can do more transactions, that they can be out, network with clients, and make more visits, right?
What do consumers in Switzerland really want when they're looking to buy a house and when they're looking to choose an agent?
I think that there was a personal experience what I've done, I did in the past 3 months. I was interested in a property by myself, so I just wanted to learn a bit and see how the market works at the moment, right? So what I've done, I just requested several listings to buy, right? And I was really shocked how not digitalized the journey was, right? So let's say I went to the real estate portal, I did a request, I had to wait 5 days on the expose documentation, I had to call 3, 4, 5 times the agent to get the visit, right? So I think when I look to consumers, I think they want to have the data available today, and also the possibility to see the property today and also make an offer today, right? So it's really about, if you compare to other markets, the expectations, I don't believe that they're high, right? It's more about, hey, I just want to have something now, and I want to have all the informations, right? And if I compare to the agents, what agents want today, I think one big topic is lead generation, right? If you look to the US market, every realtor has to generate leads for their agents, and in Switzerland it's seller leads, so we don't have too much buyer leads, so it's more we focus on sellers. And I think one thing is really giving agents enough leads. And the other side, I think also helping them with processes, with the headquarter from Properti to improve their daily work, to make them better, right? And I think that's something which is also our target at the Properti, how we can do our agents better, how we can improve their daily work, right? So really empower them, and for the consumers, how we can give them all the possible data today, right?
How are seller leads generated?
Yeah, so we have this certain omni-channel marketing strategy. So we are doing everything more or less. So TV campaigns, performance, content, and we are doing partnerships. With partnerships, we have much data overall. There's a bright way with historical data over 20 years. So it's quite big impact what the marketing does here.
So, I mean, to generate seller leads, you just blast the market and say, if you want to sell your home, give us a call?
Now we try to, based on data, we try to be more predictive in a certain way, right? But on the other side, it's I think also brand is something which is very important. If you compare to Remax as example, which is a US company, and I think that's a huge brand behind, right? So I think one thing is data-driven marketing. On the other side is also the whole brand aspect, and doing that in a certain omni-channel marketing strategy.
Why is the brand so important as part of that?
I believe it's about trust, and now we're 5 years on the market. I think people have to trust, because it's more or less one lifetime. In Switzerland, it's not common to make 2, 3, 4, 5 transactions. So it's more or less 1 transaction per lifetime which you do.
Right.
And I think that's why trust and the brand is important, in my opinion.
There's a lot going on in the US market right now. We chatted about it before, Zillow, Redfin, Rocket, all this stuff. Do you care about that?
Yeah, actually, I'm observing the market, and I find it quite interesting what's going on at the moment. I think we spoke about it before at the coffee. This consolidation which is happening. So I think for the European market, we always observe the US market, because if in the US market something happening, it comes also to Europe, right? So I believe there also will be a consolidation in the European market, German market, Swiss market. Also, when I look on the aspect that AI comes, performance, Google ads, costs go up, right? I think a consolidation is needed, because at the end of the day, it's about the consumer, right? And that's why I think it's something positive, and it helps the consumer at the end of the day. And at the end of the day, we want to simplify real estate as Properti, and we want to help consumers to find their home, right?
So you're probably familiar with the relationship that the big real estate portals in the US have with agents and consumers. In Switzerland, is it generally the same?
Yeah, that's a good question, a bit a political question, right? No, like in Switzerland, there are, let's say, two big portals, right? On one side, or three. Like on one side, you have HomeGate and ImmoScout. They belong to SMG, that's Swiss Marketplace Group. On the other side, there is New Home, which is belonging, like I think, 50% to other agents and also banks, right? And so New Home's target is a bit to help the real estate agents to only insert on their marketplace in a certain way to help the market, right? And SMG on the other side, HomeGate ImmoScout, that's a joint venture which like two media houses and one insurance have done, and also I think like a private equity General Atlantic is also invested there, so they plan to make an IPO earlier later. And there are a bit these two sides, right? And it's like for us, I personally believe marketplaces, we need marketplaces, right? And there are certain parties which say, as brokerage realtors, they say, hey, we don't want to insert an SMG anymore, like HomeGate ImmoScout, because they're increasing costs, they plan an IPO. For us as Properti, I think it's always about the consumer at the end of the day. We work with all the different marketplaces, and I think it helps the whole market, right?
So yeah, and the model here in Switzerland, and I'd say 99% of the markets around the world, is different than the US because there's no MLSs.
Exactly.
So it's the real estate portal business model is pay per listing. Somebody needs to pay the portal money, and then the listing goes on there. So whether it's you as the brokerage or an agent or a consumer, there's choice, right? How much do I want to spend and where do I want to list my property? For your properties, are you listing them on all the portals, or is there a decision being made on where we should advertise it?
Actually, we list it on all the portals because for us it's about the consumer at the end of the day. So we just want to find buyers or tenants for our consumers, and yeah, we just list it everywhere, right? But of course, there are agents which only list on portal A or portal B. As example, there are also like HomeGate ImmoScout has a similar model, a bit like Silver Premier agents. So they generate seller leads, they sell the seller leads then and have a certain revenue share, which in my opinion is, of course, like some of the people agents say, hey, that's not a good thing. They want to enter the brokerage market, right? I personally believe at the end of the day, it's about the consumer, and if there is an agent which takes the leads, just do it, and I think everyone can decide by himself if he wants to do that or not.
Right. Okay. So you've been at this about 5 years, you said.
Properti founded 5.5 years. I'm in the industry for 16 years. Yeah.
It's been a pretty wild 5 years.
Yeah.
Is there something you know now that you wish you knew back then?
I really personally believe that every failure you do as a startup scale-up helps you on certain reflection and improve your processes, right? I think one big thing which I would tell to myself 5 years ago is focus, right? And I think it's really about focusing and trying to be the best in your field, right? And it's also about growth, right? At this example, there was a time where we were thinking, hey, we want to expand to Germany now, and then we said, no, let's just do a great job in Switzerland, be number one, prove that you're able to be number one, and then start to expand, right? And I think that's, at the end of the day, you have to take a decision, and that's something which I would say to myself earlier is focus more.
Yeah. No, it's great. We keep hearing that, you know? I talk about it, so you see the examples in companies of what happens if you spread yourself too thin, especially in real estate. So you want to be focused, you want to be number one here in Switzerland. What are the expansion plans for the business? Where do you want to be in 5 years?
Yeah, I think what you mentioned is first number one in Switzerland, and we proved that the model works. I think we did a very great progress the past couple of months, and then we want to expand, of course. So we really want to expand European-wide, and we believe that the real estate market or even the consumer need different models in the European market. Our target will be then an expansion to Germany, Austria, Spain, Portugal, and so on. So the idea is really to be an European-wide player, but not having this certain stress of expanding tomorrow, right? I think, the whole management or our team is really focused, and at the end of the day, it's not about the decision only by myself. It's a decision by our team when we want to expand and when we feel ourselves ready, right?
Okay. All right, so we're kind of at time here. Let me wrap up by asking the question I usually ask at the beginning. How do you typically start your working day?
That's a good one. So typically I start in the morning. I stand up quite early. I first thing which I'm doing, I'm meditating, like 5 minutes, like quite a short one. Then I work for 2-3 hours, and then I went to gym. I go to gym, do my session for 1.5 hours, and then the day starts. Me personally, I really believe in a clear weekly planning. So I have like different days for different topics. As example, Monday is mostly KPIs, management meetings. Tuesday is mostly my one-to-ones. So I have my one-to-ones always Tuesdays. Wednesday is project meetings. Like in the morning, I'm preparing, I'm checking the projects. After lunch, we have project meetings. We have 3 cross-functional projects in the company, which all the departments work on. So very focused. Then Thursday and Friday are my strategy days. So I really work off a clear weekly planning, and I really believe in organization.
That's great. I like the structure there.
Yeah.
Sounds very Swiss.
Yeah, perhaps, yes.
How's the coffee game here in Zurich? Seems pretty good so far.
Yeah, very good. Like I like coffee, and I hope I brought to you the great coffee, because it's one of my favorite coffees there.
Oh yeah, no, that was great. I really enjoy that. All right, awesome. Well, Levent, thanks again for doing this impromptu, and it was awesome to spend some time with you here.
Thanks for your time, and enjoy Switzerland.
Yes. All right, so I'm Mike Del Prete. You've been listening to Context. If you want to hear more episodes or check out some of my research or join my mailing list, you can go to my website, mikedp.com. All right, we'll catch you next time.